What's up guys, Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we are talking about my top 5 baits for the month of December. December bass fishing. You know, we are talking about cold weather bass fishing. First and foremost, hopefully you guys are enjoying the annual buyer's guide series we're doing for you. You guys request this all throughout the year. We love doing it during the holidays to help get you guys the right gear during sales and during the holidays. You know, we want you guys to save as much money as possible when buying fishing tackle. So we got a few more actual teaching videos, some fishing videos, and then we'll kind of jump back into the buyer's guides just before Christmas, so help you guys save a little bit of money. But December bass fishing. Don't be surprised if you pull up to the launch ramp and you're the only trailer in the parking lot. Don't let that discourage you, because right now is a chance to catch the biggest bass of the entire year and possibly of your life. You know, cold water bassin, wintertime bassin, you know, most people think that you're gonna be bundled up, shivering, shaking a worm, and you can, and you might have to do that. But today, my top 5 baits hopefully will allow you to kind of expand on your December bass fishing and give you some baits with some confidence. That way you're not just sitting there bundled up shaking that worm. Maybe you could be speed cranking or throwing a big swim bait, something like that. So I got 5 baits for you. Let's get started. There are 2 ways to approach cold water bass fishing. And like I said, don't be discouraged if you pull up to the ramp and you're the only guy there, because that means more spots for you to fish, more areas to break down, and less pressure, right? That is a bonus for any fisherman when there's less pressure on your fishery. But really there's 2 ways to approach cold water bass fishing. You know, one, you're gonna throw the most realistic, slow moving baits possible and really kind of fool those fish into eating, right? They're gonna track it down, they're gonna see it, they're gonna analyze it, and they're like, yeah, that looks like a real fish, and they're gonna eat it. Or there's keying into the bass's predatory instincts. You know, they're hardwired to kill and eat and chase down. And believe it or not, you know, we've talked about it, Matt and I, for years, about triggering those key core responses from a bass. And it doesn't matter how cold the water is. As long as it's not solid, we've caught bass moving quick reaction baits past them. And so that's kind of the 2 different ways we're gonna approach this video. And depending on the different techniques, you guys can pick a couple, one or a couple, and apply them to your fishing. But hopefully this is kind of, I got a couple finesse baits for you and a couple reaction baits for you, and hopefully that will give you the confidence next time you're out fishing in cold water. So number 1 for me this time of the year is going to be this guy right here, the Alabama rig. More specifically, this is the, it's Hog Farmer, but it's the Tactical Flex rig. Light wire, because we want a lot of movement in our baits, in our school of bait fish. You know, as you're reeling an A-rig, we talk about it with the cranks as well, and you're changing up your cadence, your reel, 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 twitch, twitch, or twitch, twitch. That causes this school of bait fish to condense and expand, just like a school of bait fish would in real life. You know, if you guys ever seen a ball of shad at the shoreline, or maybe you're out on a dock or out on the boat, you see a school of shad swimming by, they're kind of spread out, and then they get spooked, they kind of condense and then shoot out, right? So that's the same thing. That's what you're trying to mimic with the Alabama rig. You're trying to mimic a school of bait fish, and then adding those cadences, the change in your cadence is really key, and that's when you're gonna get 95% of your bites. So you're just reeling along, either a rod twitch or a reel twitch, twitch, twitch. You get that thing to compress and expand, and then boom, that's when you're gonna get your bites. So 2 ways to approach this. You know, you can burn it just like we've taught, like speed cranking. We're gonna talk about that here shortly. Or you can throw it out there, let it hit bottom, and just creep it. Twitch, twitch, let that thing go and do its magic. But Alabama rig, if you're looking to catch a lot of fish and possibly the biggest fish of your life, the Alabama rig is one of our favorites this time of the year. Again, it's all about triggering those fish, and that's what I'm really going to talk about in these first few, and then we'll talk talk about some finesse baits. But it's all about triggering that core instinct, that feed, that predatory instinct in a bass to get those fish to eat. So December, it's cold, right? It's cold. It's freezing out here. It's about, what's the low tonight? I think 22, and the high today is in the low 40s. So it is cold out here. You can see behind me, they got the Chickamauga in the winter drawdown, winter pool, but the bass are still eating. And like I said earlier, when you think about cold water bassing or wintertime fishing, you're picturing being bundled up, freezing, you know, just moving your bait so subtly, dragging whatever, and it doesn't have to be that way. So my number 2, and probably my favorite way to catch them this time of the year, is gonna be throwing a cold water speed crank. You guys know that we've talked about this technique now for several years. Like I said a little bit ago, as long as that water is not solid and you can make a cast and you have fish in it, you're going to catch fish speed cranking. Now, you can't just go out and throw your favorite crankbait. Well, you can, but you're gonna have more success throwing a specific style of crankbait. And so I have 3 of them for you, okay? Right here, that is the Megabass Deep X 300. Now, the whole point of this video is to give you guys confidence, to show you guys, tell you guys the baits that we're using, the colors. We'll link them down below in the video description. But use what we're using, because that's what we're having success in, and then you guys can branch out from there. But if you're not used to going out in the wintertime or not used to going out and fishing in December, these baits, believe it or not, will catch a lot of fish. So hopefully this gives you the confidence, and then like I said, you can branch out from there. But that guy right there, that is the Megabass Deep X 300. Now, what you want in a cold water crankbait, you want a real tight wobble, and you want a real natural, realistic looking paint scheme, okay? So the Megabass Deep X 300, the tactical DD crank. This is one that Matt and I designed several years ago. I think the biggest bass that we know of caught on this one last year was 13 pounds. It works. It is so cool to burn this bait, either of these baits, I have a third one for you too, on a 7-to-1 or an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel when your hands are frozen. Because you know what? Having all that reel activity, working these baits, fishing those A-rigs, fishing these baits fast, keeps you warm. You don't have to sit there and freeze. But those 2 guys right there, this one's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit deeper diving. This one's a little bit more finessey, the Megabass. And the third one for you is gonna be the Spro Rock Crawler, real wide bill. This thing is great if you're fishing a fishery that has lots of riprap or lots of exposed rock points, kind of shale. This guy is a winner. So one of these guys, speed cranking, but I challenge you guys to throw a crankbait right now. So we talked about the A-rig and we talked about the crankbait. Number 3 is going to be some kind of swim bait, okay? This totally depends on you, depends on what you are comfortable fishing, depends on the type, the size of bait that you are comfortable fishing. If you want to go out and catch numbers, catch, I mean, you can catch real big fish on a little 2.8 as well. There's actually a 3.3, but some kind of swim bait, either a Kitech or a Largo shad, you know, rigged on your favorite swim bait head or an underspin, and then bump it up into a 6 or an 8-inch swim bait. You know, this is going to take specific swim bait gear, but look how realistic these guys are. You know, this is what, this is going to be a slower moving bait, something you let hit bottom and just kind of just creep this thing, right? You want that wedge style tail down there, just moving. Typically this time of the year, I go away from the boot style tails and I go more the wedge style, the vortex style tail, okay? Either the Savage Gear, that thing's money, or the Huddleston. Those guys right there. Like I said, they will require specific gear, but if you're trying to catch the biggest bass of your life, right now is a great chance or a great opportunity to throw a big swim bait like this and catch your new PB. Again, this isn't a fast moving bait. This is a bait that you're gonna have to trick those fish into eating. You know, this is gonna be down there swimming slowly. They're gonna come down, examine it, and then they're gonna decide to eat or not. Now the benefit of throwing a bigger swim bait versus a smaller swim bait is drawing power. You know, a 10-pound bass is gonna swim a lot farther to eat that meal than she would if she was gonna eat that meal, right? So you have a lot more drawing power with the big guy, but you have the ability to catch a lot more fish with the little guy. So it's totally depends on you, totally depends on what you're after. You out there just to have a good time and catch a ton of fish, or hunt for that big fish, that new PB. Okay, so we talked about the A-rig, talked about the crank, we talked about the swim bait. Okay, 3 down for you. Next up, grab these. For me, this is also another big fish bait, but it's gonna be more of the slow finesse fishing. This is gonna be a jig. Finesse football paired up with it's a Yamamoto twin tail grub. Let me pull one of these out for you. Okay, the reason I'm showing you this is because I'm gonna show you the hula grub here in a second. So your favorite natural, again, you're not trying to get these fish to react and eat the jig. This is all about tricking them. They're gonna have a lot of time to sit there and stare and analyze that, so you go natural colors. We'll link our favorites down below in the video description. But a jig, it's something you can have good contact with. You can feel the bottom. You know, you're down there just dragging. You can add a few hops in there, but fish are gonna analyze this and they're just gonna hammer it. You know, sometimes you kind of lift up and there's no bite at all, depending on how the fish are acting. You know, smallmouth, a lot of times they pound it. Largemouth, a lot of times you're gonna lift up, it's gonna be heavier, right? So a jig is one of those baits, kind of in between. You can target big fish, catch a lot of fish, and big fish. Now, another option I have for you is this guy right here. This is called a hula grub. Yamamoto hula grub. See that right there? So you put that on your favorite football style jig head, but there's no skirt. The actual hula grub itself has the skirt versus your twin tail grub. You see the difference there? So I really like throwing these in my highland reservoirs. You can get away with lighter line. You know, a jig with a big weed guard and stuff, you can throw fairly heavy line. You can fish a lot, come through a lot more stuff, more structure, more cover. If I have to go light line, clear water, high visibility, that's what I'm gonna go with the hula grub. So I wanted to give you guys 2 different options as far as fishing a jig this type of year. I mean, I have flat out blasted big ones this time of the year on these guys right here. I mean, it's snowing out and you're bundled up, but guess what? You're not really that cold because the fish are eating. You have the lake to yourself, and it is a ton of fun. So if you need to slow down and you don't want to throw the reaction bait, try one of these 2 jigs. Okay, now last but not least, I mean, there's so many different baits that I would have in my arsenal. You know, a jerk bait or a blade bait or whatever, but it's pretty, it depends on your fishery. So I wanted to really narrow this down to 5 baits that you can catch fish no matter where you are in the country, as long as you're not iced in or iced up, and your water is actually still in a liquid state. So number 5 is going to be the Ned rig. If you really have to slow down, It's just one of those days. The fish aren't aggressive. They're not wanting to eat the jig. You've already tried the reaction stuff, and it's just one of those days. Man, that's the day that I go with the Ned. Either some kind of Ned head with a football head on it. This guy right there, that's the Robo Worm. That's the Yamamoto 3-inch Senko, Ned Senko. Or your traditional, just your standard Z-Man, your TRD. Here's the electric shad. But if it's one of those days and it's just, you've tried everything, it never fails. If I need to get bit, I'm gonna be throwing some kind of Ned rig. It doesn't matter the time of the year, the fish just flat out eat them. And it's a confidence boost, right? When you're out there fishing, you can't buy a bite on the A-rig or the crankbait, and you're used to catching fish, you know there's fish in that area, you know, picking up that Ned rig and getting bit, you're like, okay, there are fish here. You know, it's a confidence thing for me, and it's usually my last resort, because like I said, this time of the year, it's all about speed for me, and it's all about covering water and triggering those fish. You're really keying into that core feed response that's hardwired into a largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. They are just straight up killers, and they want to eat. You know, we've talked about it for several years, but we kind of define it or explain it as like dragging something past a lazy cat, right? Even if it's the laziest, fattest, do-nothing cat, when you drag something by it, or you take a laser and you run a laser past the cat, they have to like get excited or want to chase it down and pounce. So you know, this time of the year, guys, don't be discouraged by the cold weather. You know, get yourself some good layered clothing, you know, a nice down jacket, some good gloves if you need gloves, but don't be afraid to head out to the lake and start throwing any of these 5 baits. You know, I like throwing that speed crank. It triggers that core response. Matt and I have had some of our best days, many great days throwing this guy right here. It's why we designed it. But that's that tactile DD crank. Came out with some new colors this year, so that is one thing that I do want to talk about. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet or not, but if you are fishing kind of the slower presentations, even all these presentations, even the speed crank, you know, go with more of your natural colors. You know, you don't have to necessarily go with your chartreuse blues or real bright chartreuse black backs, that sort of stuff. Colors that really work well in the summertime. Go with your more natural, iridescent colors, your more realistic looking baits. It's just a confidence thing for me. But guys, hopefully that simplified it for you. That's my top 5 baits for the month of December. You know, like I said, I challenge you guys, get out, get some warm weather, layer up, warm clothing for that cold weather, layer up, and head out to the lake. Fish your favorite spots, fish them with any of these 5 baits, and you guys will catch fish. If you guys have any questions, please leave those down below in the comment section. We'll try to get those as soon as possible. We've been answering comments like crazy for these buyer's guides. We really, we love it. You know, we're tackle junkies ourselves, and we're always looking for a good deal. And, you know, we want to spend our hard-earned money on the right gear, and we know you guys too, so that's what those are all about. We're going to continue those here in the next week or so. We're going to follow this video up with some fishing videos and some actual teaching videos, and then we'll jump right back into those buyer's guides to get you guys those in time for the holidays. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you learned something from this video or you like this video, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys on the next video.